what we need to do is accelerate urban growth. Given the kind of problems that you observe in any town or city, the natural inclination, anyone living there, is what I call what used to be called third-class compartments in the trains. The third-class compartment mentality, which is once you're inside the train, you don't want anyone else coming in. Right? So it's not surprising that given this condition of India's urban settlement cities, that people's general view is the correct policy to do is to develop the villages and therefore keep people where they are. They're much happier there. They don't know how unhappy they will be here. I always ask these people, why aren't you going there? If you're so unhappy here? Also, from the income distribution point of view, that you will have that again. If you have faster urban growth, obviously, when we talk about faster urban growth, you're also talking about faster increase in urban productivity, increases in incomes, and higher employment. You're not just saying that people come into the cities where they do nothing. I've talked about the overall economic and industrial policies. I would say that even though I have made certain conclusions from whatever study that I have done, but there needs to be much more academic work in terms of understanding how overall macro and industrial and trade policies affect urban growth. In terms of national policy, as I meant, that given our self-image of being a largely rural country, there has not been traditionally much interest at the national level on policies to do with urban areas. That is now changing. We now finally have a large national central funded program, what we call the Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewal Mission. We also need a specific focus on urban infrastructure investment because you don't have the same thing. Just look at urban infrastructure in Indian cities and you know that much more investment needs to be done. Even when we talk about national fiscal policy, given that you have that you have a large country, many states, and within states, municipal governments, you have an issue of fiscal decentralization. And there are a lot of kind of local issues to deal with the relationship between central government budgets, the allocation of central government resources to state governments, from state governments to local authorities, etc. There are many different models in the world which are suited for whatever, partly the legacy, partly the history, but you do need a lot of thinking on how urban infrastructure can be financed. I already talked about trade policy and industrial policy. One thing that always strikes me, incidentally, when people go to Singapore and they think there's no industry out there. Actually, when you drive from the airport towards the center of town, what you see at the right-hand side, actually what we call flatted factories. They're actually, what look like apartment buildings, residential apartment buildings, are actually factories. There are just some of these concerns to understand how cities have actually developed in the world and then apply them appropriately in India. So you do, as I said, need better understanding of links between national level different kinds of policies and how cities grow. If you look at the Indian cities that have prospered in the last 10 to 15 years, particularly, places like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, Pune, among others, each of these cities have had, by design or by chance, a very high concentration of higher education institutions and research labs. And that is really made for more innovation, people creating jobs, people creating activities, etc. And so I think there's another area which I have not done much work on, but I do feel that it's an area which needs to be better understood in the role of service sector activities, particularly education and health, as both contributors to urban growth as well as integral parts of cities which generate such activity and attract people to those cities, and also, of course, serve the welfare of the citizens of those cities. One general issue that's always intrigued me, and I've never found an answer really, is that cities are among the most complex organisms of phenomena. One would have thought that, you have, I don't know how many business schools training people to run relatively small, simple organizations. You would have thought that cities that are such complicated organisms But somehow it is not sexy to manage a city. It is sexy to be, a high-level manager in IBM or General Electric or Microsoft or whatever. But it is, if you ask someone where do you work and he or she happens to work in Boston City, they'll say very quietly, I work in Boston City. If you work in I work in Microsoft. There's just no prestige attached to managing cities. And one of the things I would hope is that the Indian Institute of Settlement will raise the prestige of the actual job of managing cities. Such a huge number of brightest people are going into finance. But were they going into urban finance? The answer is no. One would have thought that, of course, lots of people did all kinds of strange things with municipal bonds, which did nothing for the cities, did a lot for the people doing the strange things with the municipal bonds, which have now failed. But the point is that, again, the whole enterprise of financing, whether it's urban water supply, financing urban transportation, financing streets, traffic lights, the whole issue of financing urban activities, urban infrastructure, one would have thought is so interesting that you would have huge schools teaching urban finance or urban infrastructure financing. There's a great deal of financial expertise needed for urban management, and within, many cities have larger budgets than many states, and many large cities have larger budgets than the majority of the world's countries, but you don't have the same level of expertise. To conclude, Indian urban growth has slowed down, but still large in magnitude, but it will probably accelerate in the next 10, 20, 30 years. We need to look at both national level policies for people to understand how national level policies affect urban growth. We need a specific focus on urban infrastructure investment and its financing. And city management is just in its infancy in terms of any kind of expertise to do with it. And the miracle, of course, is that despite such lack of attention, interest, and expertise, cities still run. I mean, you do have a city with 50 million population, they still run. So there must be something that people know that I don't know. But presumably with attention, we can cope better. There is no education or training institution which takes a systematic view on these issues. And I hope the Ministry of Human Settlements can be designed in such a way that it will do that and it will train people to do that. You can actually increase the prestige of a profession by competitive entry. So if people know, look, these guys, they are it, and they go and you improve the whole profession. And to do all this, I believe that I've just noted down a few of subjects in the curriculum. That is just something I've jotted down quickly. But I do think we need a wide-ranging Institute of Human Settlements that looks at all of these different issues and then trains people, on the one hand, to be experts in whatever field they choose, but at the same time get an integrated view of the whole urban process. Thank you.